Chris here with the Flxpoint team. Thanks for taking the time to check out a demo of the Flxpoint platform. A lot of the concepts that we're going to talk about today, we're going to cover at a very high level. If you'd like to drill down even further or have some specific questions, please feel free to reach out to solutions@flxpoint.com. And so what I have here are two quick workflow diagrams, and this is going to be the blueprint that we're going to follow throughout the demo. And so the first thing that I need to do is set up my sources over here on the left-hand side. Inside of Flxpoint, we're going to see a quick overview of our B2C orders and if we're doing any B2B business over here. And again, the first thing that we need to do is we need to tell the system how we're going to set up those sources. So I'm going to click on my Sources tab. I'm going to go into one of my sources over here, click my Integrations, and now I'm going to tell the system how I'm going to get those products. We can do that a number of different ways. Most of the time that's going to come from a file. We can also use third-party integrations like inventory source, or if your vendor has a Shopify store, maybe that data lives in your point of sale system, Lightspeed, or your warehouse management system, SKU Vault, any number of different third-party integrations. We can also set up API and EDI integrations as well. But let's take a look at a specific file-based integration. And so here we're going to tell the system what type of file this is. In this case, it's a CSV file. And then we need to tell Flxpoint how we're going to access that file. Is that going to be a manual file upload? Is that going to be via an FTP or a direct feed link? Or maybe they're just going to email us that file. And then we need to tell the system how often we need to run that job, or how often is your supplier updating that file? Is that going to be every day, every 5 minutes, or maybe on a specific day at a specific time? That's all going to be completely configurable here inside of the Flxpoint platform. And so the next step is to take that data from that file and import it into Flxpoint as a source product. And to do that, we're going to use our mapping template. And this is us taking this data from column A on that CSV file and importing it into Flxpoint as a source product over here in column B. And you can imagine some of these suppliers provide us with really great data and some suppliers not so much. And so in this case, maybe this supplier isn't providing us with a brand name, but we know all of these products are going to be coming from brand ABC. So we can override that empty field to automatically collect that brand name. Now that we have those products imported as our source products, you can see the source that I was just setting up here, we can easily access that source's products. In this case, I know my supplier Bengala. There's a lot of product overlap with them and OnScreen. So I can check out both of these suppliers' products. In this case, these are both cleaning products. I'm going to select both of these suppliers, and now it's time to build my virtual products. So we can select all these products. We can select a few of these products. We're going to add those to our queue, and we're going to build our virtuals. Now, you don't have to do this every single time. You can save these rules here, but for the sake of the demo, let's take a look at what it looks like on the back end. And what we're doing here is we're looking for a conflict. And a conflict is going to be any two source products that share a common identifier. And that common identifier can be UPC, MPN, EAN, or ASIN. And so if we run across a conflict between these two suppliers, what would you like us to do? Do you want us to link those together, or do you not want us to link those together? Same thing with the variants. Do we add those to the existing virtual parent that we just created, or do we fail that creation? And so the next step is to build that product using the product data from both of these suppliers. In this case, let's assume that we really like the data from OnScreen the best. And so we're going to drag that to the top of our conflict build priority. So anytime that there's a conflict, we're going to always use that data from the supplier OnScreen. But let's also assume that we really like the titles from our supplier Bengala. So we can drag Bengala to the top of our field level override specifically for titles. Now you'll also notice at the bottom, we have a mapping template again. We first looked at the mapping template as we built our source products, but we don't want to manipulate that too much because we want to be able to click on our source product field and see what that record of truth is for that data for that specific supplier. But now that we're building our virtual products, maybe we want to manipulate that data even further. To give you an example, let's assume that I wanted to always include the UPC in the title of my product. So what we can do is we can now build a rule that says we're going to always run it, and we're going to append or postfix the UPC on the end of our title. And this is just me telling the system what that value is going to be. And I'm going to actually grab that UPC field. So we can test this rule out. There's my UPC. There's the current title of my product. I run my test. There's my new title, postfix with the UPC and then the UPC number. So as you can see, we can get really creative with how we're building and manipulating this data across a number of different fields inside of Flxpoint. Now that we have our virtuals built, the next step is to create listings on our sales channels. So I've saved filters over here for all of those laundry products that I was just talking about. I can easily access that filter. I can then add more filters on top of that. So if I wanted to look for laundry products that I know that I can fulfill from more than one source, I can easily add that filter. Checking out these products now, I know that I can fulfill this product from two different sources, Bengala and OnScreen. I have a wholesale cost for this supplier and a wholesale cost from this supplier. I can also configure dropship fees and shipping costs that may or may not be associated with each supplier. Now that we have our virtuals created, it's time to build our listings. The same concept as before. We can select all of these products. We can select a few of these products. We're going to add them to our builder, and then we're going to build our listings. And this is as simple as me telling the system what sales channel I'd like these products to go to. I want to push these laundry products to Amazon, or I want these products to go to my Shopify store. You'll also notice there's that mapping template again. So if we wanted that data to look different on our Shopify store than we do to our network of B2B dealers, we can manipulate that data even further using that mapping template. Moving on to the order routing side, that order is going to flow into our sales channel, which we need to pull into our order manager dashboard inside of Flxpoint. So when we check out the order manager dashboard, you can see different filters that we can save over here on the top left. In this case, I've saved a filter for all of my orders that are older than 3 days and I don't yet have tracking for. So I can easily come and access those orders. I can also sort based on order status, the different channels that I'm selling on, different sources, and so on. But let's take a look at a live order that's already processed to completion. And so the first thing that we need to do is we need to tell the system how we're going to import this order from our sales channel into Flxpoint. And to do that, we're going to use our order importing workflow. In this example, I know that my suppliers do not ship outside of the United States. So I want to build a rule here that says if the country code does not equal the United States, then I want to set my order status to on hold because I know that my supplier is not going to ship this order. I need to take an action. In another example, let's say that for fraud protection, we want to review all of our large orders. So we can say if the subtotal is greater than $1,000 or the shipping cost is greater than $100, then we want to set that order status to on hold. And I want to send a custom alert to myself that I have a large order that needs review. Next, we move on to the channel invoice. Now, if this is a B2C order, then this is really just a receipt. We're not going to be invoicing our retail customers. But if this is a B2B order, then now this means a whole lot more. And so one of the things that we can do is we can collect or defer payment from this network of B2B dealers. In this case, I've built a rule that says if that subtotal is less than $500, then I want to automatically attempt to capture that payment from that dealer. You can also edit this channel invoice as well. The next step in this process is to route the order to the appropriate supplier. And to do that, we're going to set our order routing rules. Let's take a look at our default order routing group initially. And the first thing that we're going to determine is if the order cannot be routed, what would you like us to do? Put it on hold or cancel it. And then we're going to set our routing priorities. In this example, let's assume that we have an order for multiple products, and we always prefer to fill that from a single source. We can also make that a requirement as well, in which case if the order can't be routed, your selection above would apply. And then we're going to set our list of preferred sources. So I know my internal warehouse, I've already paid for those products. I want to fulfill from that stock first. These suppliers have really great customer service. I know that I get tracking information from these suppliers in a really timely manner. We're just setting our list of preferences here. Now we can also route based on lowest cost. Going back to our earlier example, we know that there are a lot of other factors that come into play other than just wholesale cost from each one of these suppliers. And so what we can do is we can start configuring those on the individual source level. So I know that for this particular supplier, Bengala, we know that if we send them an order and that subtotal is going to be less than $200, we know that they're going to charge us a drop ship fee of $10. Same thing with the shipping costs. If we know that there's a specific category of product, or if we know we have flat rate or tiered shipping costs, we can then set that individually. Now let's take a look at some additional order routing rules. Going back to that earlier example for our suppliers that don't ship outside of the United States, in this example, let's say that we would still like to sell those products to international customers. So what we're going to do is we're going to build a rule that says if the country code does not equal the US, then we're going to use the international order routing group that we're creating. And so what does that look like? Very much the same with the routing priorities, except the key difference here is going to be instead of using the customer's shipping address, because I know that my supplier is not going to be able to ship to that international customer, I'm going to override that with my internal warehouse address or my international freight forwarder. And so now this supplier is going to send that order to my internal warehouse. I'm going to suppress that tracking so that that international customer isn't notified that it's been shipped to me. And then I'm going to ship it to the international customer and provide them with the tracking information. Now we can also take this one step further, assuming that we know the locations of our suppliers' warehouses and where orders are being shipped from. In this example, let's say that we're getting an order from one of these states here in the Southeast. And so we want to use this specific Southeast routing group. And so what does that look like? Same thing with the routing priorities, lowest cost, preferred sources, single source. My warehouse I know is in Florida. And so if I get an order from one of those states in the Southeast, I automatically want to fulfill it from my warehouse first. And now let's just assume that these suppliers are also located on the East Coast, maybe not in the South, but still a great distance to fulfill from. These suppliers over here, let's assume that they're in the Midwest, maybe not ideal for shipping an order to the Southeast, but if worse comes to worse, we absolutely want to still fulfill that order. I know that this supplier is based in Washington State. It's never going to be efficient for me to ship an order from Washington all the way to one of those states in the Southeast. So I'm going to turn this off completely. As you can see, we can get really creative with how we're building rules to route orders to the associated suppliers. Whether that's based on title or SKU or zip code, we can get really creative. Going back to that order, the next thing that we need to do is determine how we're going to get tracking from that supplier. So again, going back to the integration level, the same way that we told the system how we're going to get those source products, we're also going to tell the system how we're going to send them purchase orders. Is that going to be file-based? Is that going to come via a third party, via API or EDI? We're also going to tell the system how are we getting tracking information back. Again, same concepts there. They're going to provide us back with that tracking information, which gets updated on that individual order line item. Now that we have the tracking information back, we need to get the invoices. Again, same concept. Tell the system how are we getting invoices. That's going to be file-based. We also have the ability to pull in PDF files and parse those out as well. They provide us back with the actual invoice from the supplier. And now we can see our total profit for that order. We also have access now to a profitability report. And here we're going to be able to see our total profit across a specific date range. We can also see our most and least profitable products, our highest and our lowest margin products on an order level, at a channel level, and at a source level. One last thing that I wanted to cover is that you can now provide your vendors or your suppliers access to a vendor portal. So if we have some suppliers that would still like to do things in a very manual way, they now have access to this portal. This is a link that you would provide them. And so this is what they're going to see when they log in. We don't let them manipulate this product data too much. They can see the product data that they're providing you with. But again, we don't let them manipulate this because we've built so many rules around this specific product data. But one thing that they can do is they can provide and take away access to certain products. So if they know that these 3 products are going out of stock and they're not going to be getting any more, they can unlist those products or take them away from you. They can also see their purchase orders, the orders that you've sent them, the orders that have already been shipped or still waiting. They can add shipments here manually. They can add invoices here manually. They can edit these invoices and edit shipments in the same manner. We can also click on the Invoices tab, and these vendors, these suppliers can see what you still owe them and what you've already been paid. Really appreciate your time today checking out a demo of the Flxpoint platform. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to solutions@flxpoint.com or feel free to schedule a live demo, and we'll be happy to help however we can. Thanks a lot.